Hello and welcome to another concept breakdown video from Nitecore Store. Today we will discuss the human perception of light. What is to come is but a veritable feast of side-by-side comparisons and beam shots. First, take a second and observe the 6 beam profiles that you see before you. Here are all of the constants. Each flashlight that is hidden is exactly the same distance away from this wall. The camera is also the same distance for each shot. The autofocus is off, the auto white balance is off, the auto adjust setting, auto ISO setting, essentially all of these settings are set the same. And of course I have cropped each image exactly to the same scale. Essentially everything is constant except for which flashlight is being used. In this instance, if I were to ask you which of these flashlights is brightest, which one would you choose? I can see some people picking the 6th one, down here. It has got a nice big bright hotspot, the largest out of the 6, and at the same time I can also see some people choosing number 2, because the overall profile is the biggest. All in all, I can see an argument, a meaningful argument being made for each prospective choice. However, as savvy flashlight enthusiasts and Nitecore fans, the first thing you probably wondered when I proposed the question was, what do you mean, Nitecore man? What do you mean by brightest? And believe me, I meant that in the purest sense, as a connotative descriptor. Forget about the specifications, literature, terminology like Candela, Lumen, Lux, and all of that fancy business, and just ask yourself what feels or just seems brighter to the naked eye. But of course, the reason I proposed the question is to discuss the topic at hand, which is human perception of light. But first, here are the answers. Number 1 was the Nitecore MH11. Number 2 was the Nitecore MT21C. Number 3 was the Nitecore MH25GT. 4 was the SRT7GT. 5, the New P30. From here on out, I will refer to as P30N. And finally, the last one was the TUP. All of them were the same distance away from the wall, and all of them turned on to their highest setting, being 1000 lumen max for all 6. Now, if pandering once in a video was not enough, as savvy flashlight enthusiasts and handsome to boot, you might be thinking to yourself, now Nitecore man, I am indeed handsome, and all of these are 1000 lumen? But that does not tell the whole story. Yes, you are right. Indeed, here are the Candela values for these 6 flashlights. The footage taken below was at a distance of roughly 531 feet. I apologize for the poor zoom quality, but that was the max that I can zoom in with my camera, which is a shame because I put in so much effort into my sign. Behold. The Candela value for the MH11 is 9150. The Candela value for the MT21C is 8500. The Candela value for the MH25GT is 51,000. The Candela value for the SRT7GT is 50,900. The Candela value for the New P30 is 95,500. And finally, the Candela value for the Nitecore TUP is 8,130. Here is a side-by-side comparison of the sign at max zoom, where I have additionally scaled it further to give a good idea of just how much light is reaching the sign. In the past, I have explained Candela and Lumen in our flashlight lore series, using equations and terminology, which is all very factual, albeit very boring. Let us review. Simply put, Lumen is total light output. Candela is light intensity. And in front of you, all of these are at 1000 lumen. They all share an equivalent total light output. Yet this one has the lowest luminous intensity at 8130 candela, while this one, right next to it, has a luminous intensity nearly 12 times the amount at 95,500. Now, although I understood the concept and the equations, I knew something about that notion bothered me. Perhaps it was just the connotation of the word intensity. Because in my mind, how can something be more intense but also have the same total output as something less intense? But then I happened upon a chance moment of clarity which helped me come to a realization, a way to help really illustrate this concept. Now, due to the nature of light and the physics that we understand about it, with photons being so minuscule and imperceivably fast, as a natural consequence, we perceive light almost symbolically in 2 dimensions, even though we live in a 3-dimensional world. Light also exists in this 3-dimensional world, but it is usually moving so fast in the particular direction it's going that in that direction, that dimension, it's almost as if it doesn't exist. So, for instance, when I turn on this flashlight and point it at this wall, you definitely know light's there, in that circle. You see it. But it's flat, it's a circle, it's in 2 dimensions. And you also know that it's here, in between, starting from here to here. It's definitely there, you know it's traveling in this direction. You can't really grab it or pick it up, but you can stop it. And thus, Lumen refers to the 2-dimensional manifestation that we see here as the circle, whereas Candela refers to this imperceivable part that we know is there, just the density in there that we cannot really perceive. Thus, if we ventured back to the original image, imagine if I had just cropped a small square out of the hotspot in the center of each 6, and then shuffled them about. Would you be able to tell which one is which? And now remember, one of them was 12 times as more intense as the other. A separate method that I have devised to help illustrate the relationship between Lumen and Candela, total light output versus light intensity, is by using quarters. Take for example number 1 from the original image, the MH11, and number 5, the P30N. They both have roughly similar diameter hotspots and roughly similar diameter spill sections. But remember, both of those were at a max of 1000 lumen. It is like looking at a formation of quarters from a perfectly perpendicular bird's eye view. Yet, if you visualize these quarters as manifestations of light, from a slightly angled view you can see the candela represented thusly, because unlike light, quarters are slow and stationary. Finally, a third method I have constructed to help illustrate the relationship between lumen and candela, this time in favor of why lumen values might be important. Here is the MT21C at 8500 candela. Here is the MH25GT at 51100 candela. But when you slap a diffuser on them, you're pleasantly reminded that both of them are at 1000 lumen. That concludes the concept video breakdown of the human perception of light, Candela and Lumen revisited from here at Nitecore Store USA. If you have enjoyed this video or think I am a big dumb fart, please leave a comment or suggestion below. As always, as a show of appreciation for our YouTube subscribers, save 10% on your entire order when you use the coupon code U10 at checkout. To stay up to date on all future product releases from Nitecore, sales announcements, specials, and more, and all things flashlight related, please consider subscribing to the Nitecore Store YouTube channel. And thank you.